Hello, good morning, friends. Welcome to Talent Sprint for a video edition of the current affairs between the 13th of July and the 21st of July 2017. As always, we will be dividing this presentation into 6 parts. First, the national news, followed by the international news, then the news on banking, economy, and finance, then the news on science and technology, the other current affairs, and finally, the news on sports from the sports field. We first start with the national news. The national news is that the retirement age of doctors in paramilitary forces has been enhanced to 65 years. The retirement age of medical officers working in the Central Armed Forces and Assam Rifles has been enhanced to 65 years. The decision was taken at a meeting of the Union Cabinet chaired by Prime Minister Narendra Modi on the 12th of July in 2017 in New Delhi. This will help in retention of officers and specialists in general duty medical care cadre, thereby helping in better patient care and effective implementation of national health programs and for delivery of healthcare services. Moving on, the National Green Tribunal has banned the dangerous nylon and synthetic manja used in kite flying. The National Green Tribunal has imposed a nationwide blanket ban on the use of kite strings, that is manja, made out of nylon or any synthetic material on the ground that it poses a threat to animals and humans. The judgment of tribunal came on a plea filed by the animal rights body People for Ethical Treatment of Animals, PETA, and others. The next item of the national news is that the railways is to develop a rail cloud to improve connectivity. To ensure faster connectivity at a reduced cost, the Indian Railways has developed a rail cloud with a virtual server with an inbuilt security system. The project took nearly 53 crores to complete. The technology will improve storage space and availability of server space for optimum use. Railway cloud will cover all areas like signal assets, hospital services, human resources, freight and logistics, etc. The next item of the national news for this period between the 13th and the 21st of July 2017 is that there are plans to regenerate the Ganga. The National Green Tribunal has passed a slew of directions to regenerate the river Ganga. A no development zone, an area of 100 meters from the edge in the stretch between Haridwar in Uttarakhand and Unnao in Uttar Pradesh has been declared. The NGT, in its 543-page judgment, said there will be no dumping of waste of any kind within 500 meters from the edge of the river Ganga. Let's hope that this plan to regenerate the Ganga will result in some fruitful action and the Ganga will retain a lot of its past pristine glory. The next item is that the indigenously developed S-band Doppler weather radar has been commissioned in Cochin. A state-of-the-art indigenously developed S-band Doppler weather radar, or DWR, of the Indian Meteorological Department was commissioned at Palluruthi in West Kochi in Kerala. It has been manufactured by Bharat Electronic Limited based on the indigenous technology provided by the Indian Space Research Organization. It joins the latest in a chain of 27 such advanced radars already installed in various parts of the country. This radar is expected to be very useful in predicting weather conditions across the western coast of the country. The Indian government, the Indian authorities have told the UK authorities that the fugitive businessman Vijay Mallya will be sent to the Arthur Road jail if he is extradited. If extradited, fugitive businessman Vijay Mallya will be lodged in a high security cell in barrack number 12 at the infamous Arthur Road jail in Mumbai. The government has conveyed this news to the UK Crown Prosecution Services. The government was responding to questions from the UK government on where Mr. Mallya would be held and the prison conditions he would be subjected to if India's extradition request of February 2017 is granted. This case is taking a long winding stage and it's not yet known whether Mr. Mallya will be repatriated, and even if he is so, when he will be repatriated. We'll have to wait and watch the developments on this news item. Moving on, in a great vote of confidence to the Narendra Modi government, a survey has revealed that 73% of the Indians trusts Prime Minister Narendra Modi's government. Of Economic Cooperation and Development, OECD's Government at a Glance Report 2017 shows that India is one of the leading countries in terms of people with most confidence in their government. The report said 73% of the people have confidence and faith in the Narendra Modi government. It also said trust in government may lead to effectiveness of government and economic development. I think this is a very good news for the Narendra Modi government, that 73 people have faith in the government and in their policies. And coming as it does from a reliable organization like the Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development, Government at a Glance report in 2017, this is indeed very good news for the government of India. In a major achievement, India's first solar-powered DEMU train has been launched. The Indian Railways, in yet another feather to its cap, has launched India's first solar-powered diesel multiple unit or DEMU broad gauge train. It's a 1,600 horsepower HP train with all solar-powered coaches. The train will run from Sarai Rohila in Delhi to Farooq Nagar in Haryana. It will replace an existing non-solar powered rake on the same route. This is a matter of great achievement for the Indian Railways that an entire train has been made solar powered. This will reduce the dependence on diesel and on electricity to a very large extent. And the lighting of the coaches and everything inside the coaches will be taken care of by the solar panels which have been installed on the rooftop of the train. The next news item on the national segment is that India is to host the 8th International Theatre Olympics. India, for the first time, will host the 8th International Theatre Olympics, the greatest carnival of theatre in the world, in 2018. The 51-day Carnival of Theatre will begin on the February 17th of 2018. The mega international event will be organized by the National School of Drama, or the NSD, in coordination with the Union Culture Ministry. This is again a feather in the cap of the NSD, that the NSD has been able to win a bid for hosting the International Theatre Olympics for the first time in India, and it's a 51-day carnival that will begin on the 17th of February 2018. Moving on in the national news segment is that the free gas connections provided to below the poverty line people has crossed the 2.5 crore mark. The free gas connections provided to BPL households under the Pradhan Mantri Ujjwala Yojana has crossed the 2.5 crore mark. This number was reached after President Pranab Mukherjee handed over a cooking gas connection to a beneficiary at his residence, Jangpir House in West Bengal. This meets half the target of distributing 5 crore LPG connections to poor households. In a survey amongst the major airports in the country, Raipur Airport has been ranked first in Customer Satisfaction Index survey. Raipur's Swami Vivekananda Airport was ranked first in a Customer Satisfaction Survey Index, or CSI survey, amongst 49 airports in the country. It has achieved a 4.84 score on a 5-point scale index. Well done, Raipur Airport and the authorities concerned who are running their airport. Raipur was followed by Udaipur in the second place, Amritsar in the third place, and Dehradun in the fourth place. The airports which have scored 4.75, 4.74, and 4.73 points respectively. 4 airports which have been ranked very high on the customer service index survey. In a major move by the railways are to invest 8,50,000 crore rupees. Railway Minister Suresh Prabhu has said that the railways is an overhauling phase and its network will be transformed completely in the next 5 years' time. Railways has prepared a clear-cut roadmap under which 8,50,000 crores of rupees of investment has been planned in the next 5 years. The ministry has launched several reformative and passenger-friendly initiatives, including an ambitious plan to induct about 40,000 coaches with improved interiors and upgraded facilities. Let's hope that this sees the light of the day very soon, and we'll all have a more pleasant experience traveling by the Indian Railways than at present. The next news of the national news segment is that the Bofors ghost has returned to haunt the people concerned. The center is all set to reopen the case. The center is all set to reopen the Bofors gun case if the recent presentations of the Defense Ministry and the Central Bureau of Investigation before a subcommittee of the Public Accounts Committee are an indication. The center told the subcommittee at a recent meeting that the UPA government had, in 2005, denied the CBI permission to approach the Supreme Court against the Delhi High Court judgment dismissing the proceedings against the Hinduja brothers who were amongst the key accused in the case. Matunga in Mumbai has become the first railway station in India to be completely run by women. The Central Railway has appointed 30 women to run the suburban Matunga station in Mumbai. This makes the first railway station in the country to be run exclusively by women. The staff include 5 CRPF women officers as well. The presidential elections are all over. We will be seeing the news item in a later section of this presentation, but now it's time for the vice presidential poll. And Venkaiah Naidu has been appointed as the BJP candidate for the vice presidential poll. Senior BJP leader, Mr. M. Venkaiah Naidu, will file his nomination for the post of Vice President of India on the 18th of July 2017. On the 17th of July, BJP President Amit Shah in New Delhi announced his name for the NDA vice presidential candidate after the party parliamentary board meeting. Prime Minister Narendra Modi, in a series of tweets, has said that he is a fit candidate for the office. Mr. Modi said the years of parliamentary experience Mr. Naidu has will help him discharge the important role of the Rajya Sabha chairperson. Voting has concluded for the election of the 14th President of India. Voting was held on the 17th of July 2017 to elect the 14th President of India as members of Parliament and legislative assemblies exercise their franchise at the designated centres at Parliament House and State Assemblies complex. A total of 714 MPs voted in the presidential polls in the Parliament House. This is the highest turnout for a presidential election in India. Coming back to Mr. Vijay Mallya and his exploits with the various law authorities in the country, in the IDBI loan default case, the court has ordered attachment of Vijay Mallya's accounts. A special court in Mumbai has issued an order directing attachment of the beleaguered businessman Vijay Mallya and his associates' accounts in the United Kingdom and Switzerland in connection with the IDBI loan default case. The court last week also allowed the agency's request for the issuance of letter rogatory to the UK to assist in the probe. The court has also directed the issuance of letter rogatory to carry out the investigations about those accounts. In a further continuation of the earlier news on the vice presidential polls, we have the news that Mr. Venkaiah Naidu and Mr. Gopal Krishna Gandhi have filed their nomination papers for the vice presidential polls. NDA's vice presidential candidate, Mr. Venkaiah Naidu, and the opposition's candidate, Gopal Krishna Gandhi, filed their nomination papers in the Parliament House on the 18th of July 2017. Mr. Naidu expressed the confidence that he will be able to do justice in the August post. Mr. Gopal Krishna Gandhi said he is representing the aspirations of the common people of the country. Following the resignation of Mr. M. Venkaiah Naidu, who has been appointed the vice presidential candidate by the BJP and its allies, the Textiles Minister Smriti Irani assumed additional charge of the Information and Broadcasting Ministry, replacing Mr. M. Venkaiah Naidu, who has resigned following his nomination as NDA's vice presidential candidate. Resignation, Rural Development Minister Narendra Singh Tomar has been given the additional charge of the Housing and Urban Affairs Ministry. Moving on, the next item of the news is that the government aims to connect 1.5 lakh gram panchayats via optical fiber by mid-2018. Around 1.5 lakh gram panchayats will be connected via optical fiber under the National Optical Fiber Network program of the Centre by mid-2018. Of the targeted 2.5 lakh gram panchayats are to be connected under this program, now called BharatNet, around 1 lakh has already been connected. By the mid-2018, the remaining will also be connected. A new person has been sworn in as the Chief Minister of Nagaland. Mr. T.R. Ziliang has been sworn in as the Chief Minister of Nagaland, with Mr. Ziliang staking claim to hold majority support of the 47 members of the Legislative Assembly. The state governor, Mr. P.B. Acharya, has invited the former Chief Minister to form the government again. The governor further directed Mr. Ziliang to prove his majority on the floor of the House on the 22nd of July. The nation's longest bridge has been opened in Orissa. 2.88-kilometer long road bridge, the longest in the country, was dedicated to the nation by the Orissa Chief Minister, Mr. Naveen Patnaik, on the 19th of July 2017. The bridge connects the state capital Bhubaneswar with the city of Cuttack and is constructed over the river Kathajodi and is named after Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose. It will reduce the distance between the two cities by 12 kilometers. The UIDAI has launched a M-Aadhaar app. The UIDAI has launched the M-Aadhaar app, which will allow the mobile users to carry their unique identification profile on their mobile. Under this app, a user can download the Aadhaar profile from his smartphone and hence does not need to carry a hard copy with him. For now, the app is available on the Android platform only and can be downloaded from the Google Play Store. We have finally the news that Mr. Ramnath Kovind has been elected the President of India. Ramnath Kovind has been elected the new President of India as he secured victory over the opposition candidate Meera Kumar to become the 14th President of the country. He is 71 years old and was still recently the Governor of Bihar. Announcing the results, Lok Sabha Secretary General and Returning Officer Anup Mishra told media persons in New Delhi that Mr. Kovind got 2,930 votes valued at 7,02,044 and Meera Kumar got 1,844 votes valued at 3,67,314. Congratulations, Mr. Ramnath Kovind, and we welcome you as the 14th President of our country. The External Affairs Minister, Ms. Sushma Swaraj, has gone on record saying that all countries support India's stand on the Doklam issue. External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj has said that all countries support India's stand on the Doklam issue. Replying to supplementaries during the question hour in the Rajya Sabha, she said if China unilaterally changes the status quo of the tri-junction point between India, China and Bhutan, it poses a challenge to India's security. She clarified that the India, China, Bhutan are participants at the tri-junction point and any unilateral misadventure by China will not be tolerated. Let's hope that this Doklam issue does not go out of control and it's resolved as early as possible. The Lok Sabha has passed the IIIT bill. On the 19th of July 2017, the Lok Sabha passed the Indian Institute of Information Technology bill by a voice vote. These institutes are to be set up on the private-public partnership model. There are already 15 such IITs operational in the country. These engineering and tech schools were established at the cost of 128 crore rupees. The 128 crore rupees each. The center had contributed 50% of the amount, the states 35%, and the private partners the remaining 50%. That means the capital has been contributed in the ratio of 50:35:15. In a rather unique and unusual move, Telangana has capped the weight of school bags for children. In a rather unique move, the Telangana government has acted to reduce the burden of school-going children by putting a cap on the maximum weight of the school bags which the children can carry. Under the new rule, the maximum weight can be 1.5 kgs for class 1 and 2, 2 to 3 kgs for class 3 to 4, class 3 to 5, 4 kgs for classes 6 and 7, 4.5 kgs for classes 8 and 9, and 5 kgs for classes 10. The government also barred any type of homework for students in classes 1 to 5. This is a wonderful move coming from the Telangana government, and with this move, it is hoped that the weight of the children having to take a huge amount, it was estimated that the children were carrying bags weighing as much as 12 kgs sometimes. So this is indeed a very good news for the school children in Telangana. That's all we have for you in the national news segment. We now move on to the next segment of this presentation on current affairs for the period between the 13th of July and the 21st of July 2017. And this is on international news. In a rather saddening development, one of the biggest icebergs has broken away from the Antarctica. One of the biggest icebergs ever recorded has just broken away from the Antarctica. The giant block is estimated to cover an area of roughly 6,000 square kilometers. That's about a quarter the size of Wales. A US satellite observed the berg today while passing over a region known as the Larsen Sea ice shelf. Breaking away of icebergs are not good news for the world in general, because icebergs are very useful in keeping the climate changes under control. And if icebergs break away, that could lead to a lot of flooding in many parts of the world. Let's hope too many icebergs don't break away. Let's hope that this is limited and one of those rare events that has happened recently. Trade talks between India and China are deadlocked. Trade talks between India and China remained deadlocked, with neither side willing to offer concessions to end the impasse. Recent bilateral talks and issues relating to farm products, which took place in the backdrop of the military standoff in the Doklam area of the Indo-Bhutan-China tri-junction, failed to make any headway. Taking a decision on grant of market access to Indian rice, pomegranate, okra, and bovine meat, while India opted to stick to its ban on imports of apple, pear, milk, and milk products from China. Coming as it does between two of the largest countries in the world and two of the most populous countries in the world, is not good news that the trade talks between India and China has been deadlocked. Let's only hope that this situation will be improved and the impasse will be ended very soon. The former Brazilian president, Lula da Silva, has been convicted of corruption. Former Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva was found guilty of corruption and money laundering on Wednesday last and sentenced to almost 10 years in prison. The decision by Judge Sergio Moro was widely expected, even by Silva's own defense team, but it was still stunning. The charismatic leader left office on the 31st of December 2010 with sky-high popularity, and is credited with putting millions of Brazilians out of poverty and turning Latin America's largest nation into an important player on the world stage. But alas, he has been found guilty of corruption and has been sentenced to almost 10 years in prison. The China's Nobel laureate Liu Xiaobo dies at 61 years. China's most famous political prisoner, the Nobel laureate and democracy icon Liu Xiaobo, has died at the age of 61. Liu was awarded the 2010 Nobel Peace Prize for his long and non-violent struggle for fundamental human rights in China. The activist was being treated for terminal liver cancer in a hospital in northeastern China. Moving on in international news segment, China says it is committed to upholding UN sanctions on North Korea. China has said it is committed to upholding the United Nations sanctions on North Korea, despite data showing a jump in bilateral trade. Sino-US relations have soared in recent weeks as President Donald Trump urges Beijing to put diplomatic and economic pressure on North Korea over its nuclear ambitions, with tensions rising after this month's test of a missile that could reach the US mainland. Despite Washington's calls for action, trade between the Asian neighbors increased 10.5% in January to June, including a 29.1% jump in exports. So whatever China says about upholding UN sanctions on North Korea have to be taken with a pinch of salt, I guess. The US President Donald Trump has indicated that he can change his stance on the Paris climate deal. US President Donald Trump has indicated that he can change his stand on the Paris Climate Accord. The US President has opened the door to a reversal of his decision barely 6 weeks after announcing that the United States will abandon the 2015 pact. Trump, whose country is the world's largest or world's second biggest producer of greenhouse gases after China drew widespread criticism when he announced on the 1st of June that he will quit the pact. Finally, some reason seems to be dawning on Mr. Trump, and let's hope he has a complete change of mind and he agrees to stand with the other countries on the Paris climate deal. The Bavarian Motor Works for the BMW has opened an R&D center in China, which is the largest outside Germany. BMW Motors has opened a new research and development center in China, the largest outside of Germany. The center will be set up in an area of over 40,000 square meters and will be set up in Shenyang, the capital of Liaoning province. The center will focus on new energy technology to establish a complete R&D and production chain in China. The US annual defense budget seeks to advance military cooperation with India. The US annual defense budget of about $621.5 billion for the 2018 fiscal has been passed by the House of Representatives. Amongst other things, it seeks advancing of military cooperation with India, already a major defense partner of America. An amendment on enhancing cooperation with India was moved by Indian-American Congressman Ami Bera and was adopted by a voice vote by the House as a part of the National Defense Authorization Act of 2018, beginning on the 1st of October 2017. Indonesia has renamed part of South China Sea. Indonesia will now refer to the northern areas of its exclusive economic zone in the South China Sea as the North Natuna Sea, in an act of defiance against Beijing's territorial ambitions in the region. Deputy Minister for Marine Sovereignty Arif Hawas Orgazano unveiled a new map with the renamed territory, reports CNN. The system will allow the international community to know whose territory they pass through. The next item on the international news segment is that the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres has called for the implementation of the Paris Climate Accord. The UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres has called for the implementation of the Paris Climate Accord, saying that climate changes poses a far-reaching threat. Guterres said population growth, climate change, food insecurity, water scarcity, and chaotic urbanization in certain parts of the world are interacting with each other. In an olive branch development, the South Korean part of the Korean island, the South Korea has offered talks with the North Korea. South Korea on the 17th of July 2017 has offered talks with the North to ease animosities along their tense border and resume reunions of families separated by the war in the 1950s. It is unclear as to how North Korea will react, since it remains suspicious of new South Korean President Moon Jae-in's outreach to it. But Mr. Moon's overture, the first formal offer of talks since his inauguration in May 2017, indicates that he wants to use dialogue to defuse the international standoff over North Korea's weapons programs, despite having condemned North Korea's first intercontinental ballistic missile test on the 4th of July 2017. In a welcome move, the United States government has announced that it is to provide 15,000 additional visas. The US government has cleared the way for thousands of foreign workers to enter the country under the temporary seasonal visas. The Department of Homeland Security said in a statement that the government will allow 15,000 visas for temporary seasonal workers to help American businesses in danger because of a shortage of labor. Federal officials said there are not enough qualified and willing American workers available to perform certain types of temporary non-agricultural work. In a first of its kind, UK's first woman Sikh MP, Preet Kaur Gill, has been elected to the Home Affairs Select Committee. Britain's first woman Sikh MP, Preet Kaur Gill, was elected to the Home Affairs Select Committee in the UK Parliament. She will be one of the 11 MPs on the cross-party Home Affairs Committee. The Home Affairs Select Committee is an influential cross-party panel in the UK Parliament that examines the workings of the Home Office. It investigates the spending, policy, and administration of the ministerial department. Congratulations, Ms. Gill. The US laptop ban has been lifted, says Saudi Arabia's national carrier. Saudi Arabia's national carrier has said the US ban on laptops and tablets in the cabins of its US-bound planes has been lifted on the 19th of July 2017. The Kingdom's civil aviation authorities informed Saudia, the national airlines of Saudi Arabia, that the ban has been lifted after a US team inspected security measures at airports in Riyadh and Jeddah. Washington, in March 2017, barred all electronic devices larger than a mobile phone in the cabins of direct flights to the United States from 10 airports in Turkey, West Asia, and North Africa, only allowing them in whole luggage. In the first of its kind, the US Navy has tested the world's first laser weapon system. United States Navy successfully tested the world's first ever active laser weapon system, or LAWS. In the test, the LAWS deployed aboard the USS Pons amphibious transport ship was able to destroy a drone in flight and moving targets on the Persian Gulf. USS Pons is the first ship in the world to be deployed with such advanced weapon system. That's all we have for you in the international news segment. We now move on to the third segment of this edition of the Current Affairs, and this segment is on banking, economy, and finance. In a good news, the retail inflation has hit the historically low level of 1.54% in June. Retail inflation has hit a historically low level of 1.54% in June 2017. Inflation had stood at 2.18% in May this year and at 5.77% in June last year. The inflation rate of 1.54% for June is historically low and reflects the firm and ongoing consolidation of macroeconomic stability. The growth in industrial output has slowed down to 1.7% in May 2017. Growth in the country's industrial output slowed to 1.7% in May 2017 this year on a year-on-year basis. Industrial output had grown 8% in May last year. According to data released by the Central Statistics Office, mining sector output contracted 0.9% in May, while manufacturing sector output grew 1.2%. Services provided by the educational institutions are fully exempt from the GST. On the 13th of July 2017, the central government said that the services provided by an educational institution to students, faculty, and staff are fully exempt from GST. The Finance Ministry said there is no change in tax liability relating to educational and related services in the GST, except reduction in tax rate on certain items of education. It is clarified that no GST will be on an annual subscription or on fees charged as lodging and boarding charges by educational institutions from its students for hostel accommodation. This is a welcome move for the students. The bulls are at work in Dalal Street. The stock market has been continuously going up, except for the odd days when the market has been coming down. And in the latest news is that on the 13th of July 2017, the Sensex at Bombay Stock Exchange breached the 32,000 mark for the first time ever in morning trade. The Nifty at the National Stock Exchange also touched a new intraday peak and had later climbed 60 points to 9,876. Stocks rose amid expectations of an interest rate cut by the RBI after retail inflation in June fell to a record low. The government is setting up new wing to provide intelligence inputs. The Union government has set up the Directorate General of Analytics and Risk Management, DGARM, a new wing to provide intelligence inputs taking action against tax evaders. It has been set up by and will be under the Central Board of Excise and Customs. It will also do big data analytics for taxmen for better policy formulation. Moving on, the Income Tax Department has identified over 5.5 lakh people with cash deposits which are not in tune with their known sources of income. Income Tax Department has identified 5,56,000 persons whose cash deposits post the note ban were found inconsistent with their profiles. Finance Ministry said another 1 lakh persons have been identified who did not disclose all bank accounts during e-verification in the first phase of the Operation Clean Money. In the first phase, around 18 lakh persons had been identified for e-verification of large cash deposits, of which 9,72,000 people had submitted online response. Coming on the back of the retail inflation, the wholesale inflation also has fallen to 0.9% in June 2017. The wholesale inflation fell to 0.9% in June this year as prices of food articles, including the vegetables, fell. The inflation figure is the lowest in at least 8 months since the availability of data for the new 2011-12 base year series. Inflation based on the wholesale price index had stood at 2.17% in May this year and minus 0.09% in June last year. The next news in the banking and economic segment is that the exports grew in June, but at a slower 4.39%. Export of goods grew for the ninth straight month in June, posting a 4.39% increase to $23.56 billion on continued demand for engineering goods, petroproducts, and chemicals. Imports posted an increase of 19% to $36.52 billion in June, with an increase in inward shipments of petroleum, crude, electronics, pearls, and precious stones and machinery. That means we still have a problem of balance of payments because imports are continuing to be more than the exports. Gold imports doubled to $2.45 billion US dollars. The Qatar crisis has taken its toll on the Indian exports. India's exports to take a hit as Qatar crisis deepens. India's exporters have started facing the heat from Qatar's recent diplomatic crisis with the Arab states, Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, the United Arab Emirates, and Egypt. Exporters foresee severe short-term challenges related to logistics and banking issues. There are certain short-term challenges arising out of the crisis due to the logistical and banking issues. There may be some problems for shipments that are already in the pipeline, said Mr. Ajay Sahai, Director General, Federation of Indian Export Organizations. We can only hope that this crisis is ending soon so that it is good for everybody concerned, not only for the Arab states, but for the entire world. The center has asked traders to register under the GST regime by the 30th of July 2017. The government has asked traders to get registered under the goods and services tax regime by the 30th of this month. However, traders with turnover of below 20 lakh rupees or those engaged exclusively in the supply of exempted goods or services need not register under the new tax regime, which is kicked in from the 1st of July. Finance Ministry has listed the benefits of getting registered under the GST, saying that input tax credit can be passed on the value chain and due taxes collected will come to the exchequer. The IBBI has notified the rules for bankruptcy probe. The Insolvency and Bankruptcy Board of India, IBBI, has notified regulations for inspection and investigation of service providers registered with it. Under the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code IBC, implemented by the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Board of India, service providers are insolvency professional agencies, entities, professionals, and information utilities. The investigation authority has to serve a notice intimating the entity concerned about the probe at least 10 days in advance. Gujarat High Court has dismissed Essar Steel petition in insolvency case. The Gujarat High Court on Monday dismissed the Essar Steel's petition seeking to quash the Reserve Bank of India's directive to a consortium of lenders, clearing the way for them to initiate proceedings under the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code before the National Company Law Tribunal. The order strengthened the bank's case to recover money from corporate defaulters. It may be recalled that Essar Steel is one of the 12 large borrowers against whom the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code rules are being implemented. The Sri Lankan Airlines is expanding its services to India by the addition of a new Sri Lankan Airlines flight to Coimbatore. Coimbatore has become the 14th destination for Sri Lankan Airlines in India, with the national carrier of the island country commencing direct flights between this textile hub and Colombo. Coimbatore is the third South Indian city that the airline has covered in the past week, with Visakhapatnam on July 8th and Hyderabad on the 12th of July. With these additions, the airline now operates 126 flights a week in India. The center has told the Supreme Court that it would not be possible to grant any more grace period to deposit demonetized notes. The center told the Supreme Court that it took a conscious decision to not give any grace period for citizens to deposit their demonetized notes after the cutoff date on the 30th of December 2016. Doing so would have defeated the very purpose of demonetization, the government said. It was replying to Supreme Court's appeal to open a window for genuine people like the terminally ill and invalids, to name a few, who were unable to deposit their demonetized 1,000 rupees and 500 rupee notes between the November 9th and the 30th of December last year. Moving on, the next item of the banking, economy and finance segment is that the Jan Dhan deposits have surged to 64,564 crore rupees. Deposits in the Jan Dhan accounts have touched a new high of 64,564 crores, of which over 300 crores came in the first 7 months of demonetization, according to the government data. The Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana (PMJDY) aims at bringing hitherto unbanked areas and people under a formal banking system. Bank accounts can be opened with a zero balance under the PMJDY. There were about 28.9 crore PMJDY accounts as on June the 14th this year. The government is working on a consolidation agenda with a view to creating 3 to 4 global-sized banks and reduce the number of state-owned lenders to about 12. This news has been doing the rounds in the last few days that a merger of public sector banks is very much likely and very much possible. The 21 public sector banks would then get consolidated to 10 or 12 in the medium term. As part of a three-tier structure, there will be at least 3 to 4 banks of the size of State Bank of India, the country's largest lender. It must be added here that the consolidation of the associate banks with the SBI and the smooth process with which it has been done has given confidence to the government that they can indeed go ahead with the merger of the public sector banks and bring down the number of public sector banks to about 12. There has been only a 7% rise in transactions through cards post-demonetization. Transactions through debit and credit cards rose by merely 7% post-demonetization as against a surge of over 23% in the overall digital transactions. The digital transactions were in all modes increased by 23% to 27.5 million in May 2017 from 22.4 million in November 2016. The highest jump was witnessed in transactions through the UPI from 1 million per day in 2016 November to 30 million per day in May 2017. The government has launched a GST training program. In order to make the people more familiar with the new GST regime, the government has announced that it will train youth in 14 states of the country immediately. The target is to train 2 lakh persons in 6 months' time to handle issues like invoice making, etc. The training will be done under the auspices of the Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Vikas Yojana. The State Bank of India has launched the SBI Realty portal for home buyers. State Bank of India launched SBI Realty, a dedicated portal that will help home buyers to choose flats from its 3,000 approved projects across the country. SBI Realty will be a one-stop integrated website for home buyers. It will help customers to choose their dream home from 3,000 SBI approved projects, which are spread across 13 states or union territories covering 30 cities. Tata Motors unveils India's first Bio-CNG bus. India's largest commercial vehicles manufacturer, Tata Motors, has unveiled the country's first Bio-CNG biomethane bus. The bus was rolled out at the Urja Utsav Bioenergy Program organized by the Union Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas. The first of its kind biomethane bus will provide an alternative fuel technology to cater to the need for a greener country. Reliance Industries' market capitalization has crossed the 5 lakh crore mark. Reliance Industries Limited, for the first time in its trading history, has crossed 5 lakh crore in market capitalization. The market cap of RIL stood at 5,04,458.09 crores of rupees on the Bombay Stock Exchange. RIL is the second firm to cross 5 lakh crores in market capitalization. It is also RIL's highest market cap in its lifetime, and also currently it is the most valued company on the bourses. Tata Consultancy Services was the first company to hit 5 lakh crore in market capitalization milestone in July 2014. Now, Tata Consultancy Services is the second most valuable company in terms of market capitalization after Reliance Industries. India's food grain outputs have recorded new high. According to the data released by the government, India's food grain output has reached a record high of 273.38 million tons in 2016-17. This is an increase of 8.7% over the previous year. Output of rice, wheat, coarse grains, and pulses all went up substantially, with pulses recording the highest increase of 37%. The increase in output is expected to increase supplies and reduce prices of these items in the near future. Moving on, Bank Nationalization Day was observed on the 19th of July, 2017. The 48th anniversary of the nationalization of major banks in the country was observed on the 19th of July 2017. The United Forum of Bank Unions has decided to observe the 19th July as Save Public Sector Banks Day every year henceforth. On this day, all members of the forum will wear badges, distribute leaflets, and hold rallies and demonstrations at all locations all over the country. It may be recalled that it was on 19th of July 1969 that the first batch of 19 banks were nationalized in the country. A Reuters poll has given some good news for India by saying that India is all set to reclaim position as the fastest growing global economy this year. India will reclaim its position as the fastest growing major global economy this year, partly propelled by the benefits from a new tax system and bolstered by an expected central bank interest rate cut, a Reuters poll showed. Having been in the offing for close to 2 decades, the goods and services tax, which the government touts as the biggest domestic tax reform since independence, was introduced on the 1st of July and has bolstered the economists' outlook. The Asian Development Bank has said that India is on track to grow at 7.4% GDP. The Asian Development Bank retained India's growth projection at 7.4% for the current financial year, even as it raised the forecast for the developing Asian region to 5.9%. In a supplement to its Asian Development Outlook 2017 report, the ADB has revised the forecast for developing Asia from 5.7% to the earlier to 5.8%. For India, it maintained the growth forecast at 7.4% for 2017-18 and for 7.6% for the fiscal year 2018-19. That's all we have news for the banking and economy segment. We now move on to the next segment, which is on science and technology. NASA's Juno spacecraft completes flyby over the Jupiter's Great Red Spot. NASA's unmanned spacecraft Juno has successfully peered into the Jupiter's giant storm known as the Great Red Spot. It became the first space probe to complete the flyby of the Jupiter's Great Red Spot. The Great Red Spot on Jupiter is a massive storm or cyclone measuring about 16,000 kilometers in diameter. The scientists have discovered the smallest star known in the universe. Scientists from the University of Cambridge, United Kingdom, have discovered the smallest star in the universe. It has been named EBLM J055557AB. The star was identified by SuperWASP, a planet-finding experiment run by several universities. It was detected when it passed in front of its larger parent star, forming an eclipsing stellar binary system. Indian scientists have discovered a supercluster of galaxies. Indian scientists have discovered an extremely large supercluster of galaxies, which is as big as 20 million suns. Pune-based Inter-University Center for Astronomy and Astrophysics, IUCCAA, a team of astronomers has named it Saraswati. IUCCAA said that this is one of the largest known structures in the neighborhood of the universe. It's 4,000 million light years away from Earth and is roughly more than 10 billion years old. We must congratulate the team of Indian scientists from the Pune Inter-University Center for Astronomy and Astrophysics for having discovered the supercluster of galaxies and also for having named it Saraswati. The Geological Survey of India has discovered millions of tons of precious metals and minerals in Indian waters. Scientists from the Geological Survey of India have discovered the presence of millions of tons of precious metals and minerals deep under the waters within the exclusive economic zone of peninsular India. They have confirmed the presence of large amount of lime mud, phosphate-rich and calcareous sediments, hydrocarbons, metalliferous deposits, and micronodules. They believe that deeper and more extensive exploration could lead to a large trove. This could be very, very good news for India as a country, that we are discovering tons and tons of precious metals and minerals inside the Indian waters of the country. The scientists have developed a 3D printed soft silicon heart. Scientists from the ETH Zurich in Switzerland have developed a 3D printed soft silicon heart that closely resembles and functions like the human organ. It is not exactly a biological replica of the actual heart, but can help to save lives of people who suffer from cardiac failure. It can also be used as an artificial heart in cases when a patient is awaiting a heart transplant. It's very good news for the medical fraternity as such. We now move on to the fifth segment of this presentation on current affairs and what we call as the other current affairs. The 15th of July is observed as the World Youth Skills Day. The World Youth Skills Day is observed globally on the 15th of July every year to raise awareness about the importance of investing in youth skills development. Observance of the day aims to create more awareness on training and development of skills for the youth of today, and also create a better employment opportunities for the youth. 2017 theme is Skills for All. It is aimed at creating awareness that everyone should have the opportunity to discover and develop their talents. Mr. Mukesh Kumar Jain has been appointed the MD and CEO of Commerce. Mr. Mukesh Kumar Jain has been appointed as the MD and CEO of Oriental Bank of Commerce for a period of 3 years with effect from the 15th of July 2017. Mr. Jain was previously the Executive Director of Punjab and Sindh Bank. We now come to the final segment of this presentation, and that is on the sports news. In a rather deserving accolade, Indian women cricket captain Mithali Raj has become the all-time leading run-getter in women's one-day internationals. Indian women cricket captain Mithali Raj created history as she became the all-time leading run-getter in women's one-day internationals. She achieved the feat against Australia in the ongoing ICC Women's World Cup, beating the record of English woman Charlotte Edwards of 5,992 runs. Mithali got past Charlotte's world record, and she also became the first ever woman cricketer to touch the 6,000 ODI mark. The skipper surpassed the landmark in a 183rd ODI, taking 164 innings, 16 innings less than Charlotte. Well done, Mithali. The nation is proud of you, and you are bringing laurels to the country, and it is indeed a matter of great pride that an Indian woman sits on top of both the batting and the bowling charts of international women's one-day international cricket. The decks have been cleared for CSK and Rajasthan Royals to return to the IPL. After the grueling 2-year suspension, the BCCI officially cleared the decks for the return of Chennai Super Kings and Rajasthan Royals to the IPL. CSK marked the end of the exile with a vibrant social media engagement, sharing photos of its remarkable moments from the first 8 editions in the league, and it naturally trended on Twitter for some time. The BCCI released an official statement that said the BCCI welcomed the Indian Premier League franchises Chennai Super Kings and Rajasthan Royals back into the league. In a major upset, Garbiñe Muguruza has lifted the Wimbledon title by beating Venus Williams in the straight sets in the finals. In the Wimbledon Lawn Tennis Championships, Garbiñe Muguruza has been crowned as the new champion. In the final of the women's singles event at the All England Club in London, the 23-year-old Spaniard Muguruza defeated Americans Venus Williams in straight sets 7-5, 6-love. The 14th-seeded Muguruza lifted the coveted title in a second attempt. Javelin thrower Sundar Singh Gujrar wins a gold at the World Para Athletics Championships. India's javelin thrower Sundar Singh Gujrar has won a gold medal at the World Para Athletic Championships in London. He finished at the top of the podium with a personal best of 60.36 meters. Sri Lanka was second, while defending champion javelin thrower from China was the third. Roger Federer keeps on marching and breaking records after records. In the world of tennis, Roger Federer is a king all by himself, and he continued his winning spree by lifting a record 8th Wimbledon title, beating Martin Cilic in the men's singles. In Wimbledon, Swiss tennis star Roger Federer won his 8th Wimbledon title by beating Croatian Marin Cilic in the men's single finals on the 16th of July 2017. Federer defeated Cilic in straight sets 6-3, 6-1, 6-4 in just about 90 minutes. The 36-year-old Federer did not drop a set in this tournament and to his 19th Grand Slam title. It must be added here that Roger Federer became the first player in the history of Wimbledon since 1976, when Bjorn Borg won the tournament without dropping a single set. After 41 years, Federer has recreated history by winning the Wimbledon title without dropping even a single set during the entire tournament. Congratulations, Roger Federer. India's Harinder Pal Sandhu wins Victorian Open squash tournament in Melbourne. India's Harinder Pal Sandhu continued his fine run by winning a second title in 2 weeks, beating top-seeded Rex Haddix of Australia in a 77-minute final of the Victorian Open squash in Melbourne on the 16th of July 2017. Sandhu reached the final without dropping a game. IH Manudev has won the first National Masters Snooker Tournament title. IH Manudev has won the first National Masters Snooker Tournament title in Chennai. Alok Kumar, a former national champion, had been in fine form coming into the submit clash, but found Karnataka's Manudev a tough proposition to handle. Manudev capitalized on the chances he got and kept scoring heavily and won the game by 4 impressive frames. In a rather strange U-turn of events, the BCCI has appointed Bharat Arun as the Indian cricket team's bowling coach. BCCI has appointed Bharat Arun as the Indian cricket team's bowling coach, and the cricket body has also decided to retain Sanjay Bangar as the assistant coach and R. Sridhar as the fielding coach till the 2019 ODI World Cup. The fate of Rahul Dravid and Zahir Khan, appointed by the Cricket Advisory Committee, remains unclear as of now. In the Commonwealth Youth Games, the Indian junior judokas won gold, 3 bronze medals. Indian judokas won a gold and 3 bronze medals in the ongoing Commonwealth Youth Games being held in Nassau, Bahamas. Soni from Haryana won the gold medal in the below 73 weight category after beating Nicholas Euros of Australia in the final bout, while Ashish won a bronze in the below 60 kg weight category, defending Zarin Prozin Harry of England in the bronze medal bout. Antim Yadav of Madhya Pradesh won a bronze in the below 48 kg weight category, surpassing Russell Jasmine of Bahamas in the repechage bout. Kerala has emerged champions in the Interstate Athletic Championships. In the 57th Interstate National Senior Athletic Championships held in Guntur, Andhra Pradesh from the 15th to the 18th of July, Kerala has emerged as the overall champions with a tally of 159 points. Tamil Nadu was placed second with 110 points, while Haryana was third at 101 points. Anu of Kerala emerged as the women athlete of the meet. The Italian football legend Francesco Totti has announced his retirement from the game on the 18th of July 2017. The legendary player from Roma announced that he will be taking up a director's role at the Serie A club. As a player, Totti played 786 matches for his club Roma and scored 307 goals. And he was also part of the Italian team which won the World Cup in 2006. In a rather stunning development, the Indian women's cricket team has stormed into the final of the ICC Women's World Cup. India stormed into the final of the ICC Women's World Cup by defeating defending champions and 6-time winners Australia by 36 runs at Derby in England on the 20th of July 2017. Deciding to bat first, India posted a challenging 281 for 4 against Australia in a rain-truncated second semi-finals match. For India, Harmanpreet Kaur top scored with a blistering century of unbeaten 171 runs, including 7 sixes, the third highest individual score by any player in the World Cup and the 5th highest overall. Mithali Raj contributed 36 runs. It must be added here that in the last 7 overs of the contest, India scored as much as 100 runs exactly. In the final to be played tomorrow, that is the 23rd of July, India will meet England. We must extend our best wishes to the Indian women's team, for they have played some excellent cricket throughout this World Cup. and they will be deserving winners should they win this tournament. All the very best to the Indian team. So that's all we have for you in this edition of the current affairs program. And now I will take any questions from you. If there are any questions, I will take it from you right now. Hemant is asking, sir, what are the advantages of merger of banks? There are a lot of advantages of merger of banks, Hemant. There will be the economies of scale. When the larger the bank becomes, the less expensive they will be. First advantage of merger of banks. The larger they become, the less expensive they will be. Number one. Number two, they will be able to compete with international banks in terms of size. Right now, as we have seen, after State Bank of India merged with the associate banks, it has already become amongst the top 50 banks in the world in terms of assets managed, and amongst the top 4 in the world in terms of branch sizes. So for the banks to be recognized on an international platform, it is very good that they are merged. And the government's thinking that instead of having 21 public sector banks, some of them are very weak actually, it is better to merge them with the stronger banks so that the health of these public sector banks will always be very good. Have healthy banks, that is a very good sign for a healthy economy. That's the reason for the government's thinking on the merger of banks. Selvi has asked, sir, what about Swayam and Swayam Prabha? Is that benefits for the rural people, far-flung areas, or for everyone? It's for everyone, Selvi. President Pranab Mukherjee inaugurated in Kolkata sometime last, maybe about 10 days back, and it is for everyone. How to prepare static GK for bank exam for UCO ministry? Static GK, in fact, last week also I had told you, Vijay Kumar, the best way to go ahead and prepare for static GK is to refer to reference books like Manorama Yearbook and stuff like that, where you will get a lot of information on static general knowledge. Sir, just out of curiosity, what will be the effect of reduction of PSBs from 21 to 12 on aspirants like this, says Arivaragan. Arivaragan, you don't have to worry, because at the entry level, banks will continue to recruit. There will be no effect on the entry level at all, because entry level positions are always open. There's no doubt about that. For SSG, current affairs questions will be asked of how many months from the past 3 years, 3 or 6. I would say, Praveen, you must be aware, you must be abreast of the current affairs developments here as such, not just 3 or 6 months. Ankit Singh is asking, any book you recommend for bank and SSC current affairs? I would rather say that you must read newspapers, Ankit. That is the best way of referring of knowing current affairs. Read newspapers, as many as possible. Read newspapers, make notings, and remember them. That is the best way of preparing for current affairs instead of reading any book as such. Nilesh Chaudhary is asking, sir, please brief about PMBVY. Nilesh, I think you are referring to Prime Minister's Vidyas Yojana. That is the latest pension scheme. Prime Minister in this thing yesterday. The Finance Minister Arun Jaitley on Friday has launched a new pension scheme for the senior citizens, Pradhan Mantri Vaya Vandana Yojana, PMVVY, in New Delhi. Scheme can be purchased offline as well as online through the LIC of India. The scheme ensures an annual return of about 8.3% per annum, payable monthly for 10 years. He said banks have to lend at an affordable rates with the senior citizens want secure and reasonable on their investment. The scheme is exempted from service tax or GST. Finance Ministry has said the pension is payable at the end of each period during the policy term of 10 years, as the frequency of monthly or quarterly or half-yearly or yearly as chosen by the pensioner at the time of purchase. Biprajit Malik has said, please tell me something about NPA in news recently about banks. Well, Biprajit, the news is that NPAs in banks have reached an alarming proposition, and it is estimated that many of the banks have huge amounts of NPAs with them. The government is taking steps to correct that position, and so they have identified 12 large borrowers who have more than outstanding amount than 1.25 lakh crores to the banking system. The government is taking steps to initiate insolvency and bankruptcy provisions against these 12 large borrowers, and so that these amounts can be recovered and the NPAs of the banks will come down. That is the thing about the NPAs in banks and recently about banks. Thank you very much for having joined me on a great weekend, and take care. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.